Good morning. I'm Marlon Weems, the Journeyman, and I am here with my good friend, Dr. Eric Lullove. You're in Florida, right?
Yeah. I'm at my office right now. I'm in Coconut Creek right
Man,
now.
when it's not hurricanes, that's not a bad place to be.
No, not at all.
I'm so glad that we've been able to pull this together. I've been trying to get you on here for several weeks, and
It's been
I mean,
a
it's not
challenge.
like you got another job or something else to do,
Something like I like taking care of people. I don't know.
Yeah, it's
Writing
and
my
I should
writing my stuff for Blue Amp. Just kind of doing all
yeah.
my technical writing.
No, you're supposed to say for that other network.
The other
Isn't that what
network.
they do on television?
Yes. The
No,
other.
we're cool with Blue Amp. I like Cliff and all
Yeah.
those guys. So, we
Well, we're
the
all on the
way
same team at the end of the day.
well, that's what I said. That's what I was going to say. I mean, at the end of the day, we're all out here, fighting a good fight, and if anything, we should figure out ways to work together. So I'm all for that. I just figured we, talk, do a little housekeeping here for a minute, let some folks file in, and then, we'll get things started in just a minute. I should maybe we can talk about this while we're waiting. Um, the way that we met is really kind of inauspicious, maybe, or it was kind of weird for me anyway. Everybody that follows me and subscribes to my newsletter has heard ad nauseum about me breaking my leg.
Oh, yeah.
Just in time for Christmas, right? And so the short version of this story, folks, is that I guess it was the day after New Year's, and I somehow managed to break my leg and end up with a gigantic leg wound that when I went to I guess the vascular guy in my network, this is not what you want to hear. When when he walked into the room, he said, "Damn, dude, that looks like a gunshot." Not really what you want to hear when it's not a gunshot.
No.
And so anyway, it ends up I've got to go into the hospital for a few days to get some antibiotic treatment, because they got to do an IV and all this stuff. And I don't know how I figured this out with you, but at some point we're driving and I was thinking, I said, I think there's a guy that subscribes to my newsletter and he does something with wounds or something. And I DM'd you on the way to the hospital. Hey, pardon me for asking, but am I correct that you're like a wound doctor?
Yeah.
And sure enough. Yeah. And so all that to say, that's kind of how our relationship moved from, subscriber and whatnot.
Better.
What's that?
It got better because.
Well, that's because it was like a personal connection there, right. Really.
But so you're like, yeah, I'm on a wound vac, and I'm like, I know what that is. Right?
Yeah, I was like, okay.
But then
they're talking about all this crazy stuff they wanted to do, and you were like, okay, if they do this skin graft thing, here's what you need to ask. So yeah, it's.
But remember, the story got better because your surgeons wanted to put on fish skin.
Yeah.
Remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's when it got weird. Because I was telling you, hey, they want to put this stuff on, and you knew what it was, and you said, "Oh yeah, I did the clinical trial," or just something crazy. And
So just for everybody out there, so when you have an open wound, if you haven't been familiar with like a family member, typically older people typically will get like.
Wait a minute, not older people.
I didn't say you.
Not me.
Yours was due to trauma. But anytime there's an open defect in the skin that cannot be closed primarily, physicians like me and other trauma surgeons will use devices to help close the wound. One is one of the devices that Marlon had, which was called a negative pressure vacuum system, or a wound vac.
Dude, it's on my leg now.
Vacuum therapy. Huh?
It's on my leg now.
You're still on it, right?
Yeah. Then, I mean, it's gotten so small that it's to the point of
it should be
hopefully I'll be good. But yeah.
And then so that stays on like 24 hours a day. So that pretty much you run that 20. You can actually run that 23 hours a day. You're allowed to come off of it for 1 hour a day to shower and basically bathe and grooming, stuff like that.
Sure.
The other way to do this is to use what we call camps or cellular tissue products. So these are products derived from other sources of animals. So we've used things like bovine, which are cows, ovine, which are sheep. I've seen horse pericardium. I've seen, oh yeah, I've seen, like, we use a lot with pig bladder, pig
Yeah.
intestines, porcine materials. So those are typical. And then we have cadaveric human. So these are like, it's basically like sterilized cadaveric human skin. And or now what we're doing now is, or and in what case what Marlon was getting was fish. So the reason why, so we're using like there's a company in Iceland that they harvest all the fish from because it's Icelandic cod is where it comes from. So, and the reason why we don't use things like tilapia or mahi or other types of fish is because those are warm water fish, so they carry a lot of bacteria. So when they use fish from the Icelandic Sea, which is like north of the 64th parallel, I have been on those boats. It is fucking cold. It is really fucking cold, and it's wet.
So wait a minute. Is this like that what's that show, The Deadliest Catch?
It's
worse those guys are.
It's worse than that. So you're up. You're
Wow.
literally, we're on the north. So if you look at a map and you look where Iceland is, so there's a little town in the northwest fjord called Islojafjörður, and that's where the company's headquarters are. That's the processing center. So all the fish, they harvest all the cod from the Icelandic Sea, which is in the north of Iceland and east of Greenland.
The north of the north, huh?
North of the north, right? So all this, so literally they just, they'll just literally harvest, and it's all wild caught cod. So this is the same cod when you go to your local market or Trader Joe's or whatever. It's the same cod that's sitting in the supermarket. So from there, it goes into the processing center where they basically harvest all the skins. The meat is then processed and then shipped to Reykjavik, from where that cod then gets transported to the United States.
Wow.
So everything is fully sustainable. So nothing's wasted. They do not waste a single part of the fish at all. Those skins get processed, sterilized, descaled, and then they're shipped here to Arlington, Virginia, where the company products and manufactures it. There are other companies that are using the omega-3s where they're grinding up the skin and using the omega-3s from the fish skin. So one of the reasons why we use fish skin is it's a really interesting science behind it. And I'm sorry, I'm geeking everybody out here.
No, really. I mean,
not on the science, but so fish skin has the same epidermis and dermis that human skin has. The only difference is that
I failed biology. Epidermis is
the top layer.
The top, right? Okay.
This part of your skin right here. This is like your epidermis.
Yeah. Okay.
And the dermis is the pinker tissue. If you cut yourself and you see the pink healthy tissue underneath the skin, the actual outside of the skin, that's your dermis, right?
Okay.
And then below that is your subcutaneous tissue, and that's where the fat is, and your fat tissues and your blood vessels, nerves. Okay, that's in the third layer of skin. And then below that, you started getting into tendon, muscle, bone below that.
When I first had this injury, and it was so weird because it started off as just a big lump, like you see on cartoons, a guy gets hit in the head and big, I guess you call it what, hematoma, right? And
unless you're dead, then it's a hematoma.
Okay. So, okay. So yeah, it just sort of blew open at some point. And and it was, needless to say, a real shock.
Yeah.
And you're just kind of like, okay, I don't think we've got anything here at home that's gonna, we don't have any Band-Aids for this. We got to go somewhere and let somebody figure it out. But yeah, which, I guess since we're sort of on the topic, it kind of brings me to the, just the healthcare industry sort of in general. Now, in my case, go ahead. The
healthcare in the United States is on life support right now.
Man, I got to tell you, I'm on Medicare, and this whole, well, don't clap, because actually, and folks, don't leave the chat.
No,
I am on United Healthcare's, AARP has a partnership with United Healthcare, and up until now, it's been okay. But, it's, as they say about, this Medicare Advantage stuff, it's sort of like, until you really need it, it's probably going to be okay. And in my case, I've never been refused for anything until just a few days ago. The wound clinic that I go to every Monday,
Here it comes.
it's gotten under control. It's gone from gunshot wound to looking like, something just not so bad, right? But still needs some attention. And they wanted to use some type of, you know, skin replacement, or I don't know what the terminology is. And so what they do, because it took me off guard. I'm sitting there, and the doctor comes in and he does this debriding where he's scraping around and doing stuff, and he doesn't really ever say much to me. And so about a week ago, he looks up and he goes, "Who's your insurance company?" And I'm like, and I tell him. And so what they did was they have to, it's not prior approval. I guess they just got to get permission to do whatever it is they're trying to do. And so they asked for like 6 different types, of this skin. What would you call it? Skin replacement, or I don't know.
So the insurers call them skin substitutes, which is a bad definition, and they're really cellular and matrix type products. They're cellular tissue products, so they're off the shelf in a box.
Yeah,
but they're derived from different.
Oh yeah,
yeah.
Because they told me a few of the things, and it wasn't fish. That would have been better.
So
but
United Healthcare nationally only covers 2 products. They cover Epifix, which is a placental amniotic allograft, and Grafix, which is basically umbilical cord amniotic allograft.
See, and I think what they did was they just sort of, did like a gunshot, and just asked for like 6 different things.
Because it was trauma. It didn't fall under the coverage policy for a diabetic limb ulcer or a venous leg ulcer because it's trauma. It becomes about medical necessity.
Right.
And there's no policy for this stuff in United Healthcare. and this is the big thing with Medicare. I call it Medicare disadvantage, as you found out, right?
Yes, I did.
If you're fine, but if you need specialty care or something like what you're getting, this is where it falls grossly short. What they have done, and they've been doing this for 25 years now, 20 years. They are utilizing their commercial insurance policies and applying it to the Medicare beneficiaries, which violates federal law. And they've been getting away with it for 20 years because HHS and CMS do not follow up. Because when you sign on a Medicare Advantage policy, you're basically taking your Medicare benefit, taking that privilege away from you being a federally governmented insured participant and transferring your care to a for-profit third-party company.
Okay. They didn't tell me that part.
They
didn't tell me that part.
No.
So,
and the agent that you go through, the insurance agent that signs you up for the plans, 9 times out of 10, they put you on a plan that gets them to go to Hawaii. Just like any other insurance policy where your agent sells you the products that have the highest marketable reward for them, just like anything else, right? So this is, and I always tell patients, when you have an opportunity to go back, and if you can financially afford it, to go back to regular red, white, blue Medicare. Get off the Medicare Advantage unless you literally are so strapped financially that you don't have any other options.
Well, and that was with me when I got to the 65, right? Pardon me. And it was just, it's all Medicare. So, and I was a member of AARP for, already. So, that came along. I looked at that. I looked at 2 or 3 others and just kind of went, all my doctors are on this one. So, what's the worst that can happen? Well, last week, or actually this week, I go in Monday, and sure enough, they had declined me because, I got this wound, but I don't have diabetes. I think another one of the reasons was it wasn't on my foot. It was like 6 different things.
Honestly, that shouldn't matter. That comes down to how the physician's documenting the case.
Yeah, I guess. So anyway, I mean, it's not totally. There were like 2 different things of the half dozen that they tried to get through. One of them, placenta and the other one was something else. This is a family show. I'm not gonna say.
This is not a family show. You can say what it is.
Oh, okay, yeah, foreskin. So yeah, I was like, okay,
right. That's a product. That product is made by Organogenesis.
Okay.
And that has been one of their legacy products that they've had for 20 plus years. Dr. Vincent Falanga, who's a vascular surgeon at Columbia, did all the original research back in the early 2000s on Applegraph. So that is one of the legacy products that has survived because they were approved under a biological license agreement, under a BLA by the FDA 20 plus years ago.
Wow.
So it's survived all of the budgetary issues that have gone through the system. So this is actually, everybody, this is the battle that I fight daily in my practice. I mean, like, we're patients who don't have Medicare. This is the struggle because Aetna, United, Cigna, smaller companies locally, they literally shrink their policy decisions to call things that are that they don't want to cover. They call them experimental and investigational. The arguments that I have with them is, listen, we've written the clinical studies on them. There are published clinical trials. If it's been investigated, it's no longer experimental. If there's been published evidence-based controlled trials, it's no longer experimental. Just because you don't want to pay for it, you're calling it experimental. So this is this push-pull, Marlon, that we're going to have in the healthcare system. That this is why you're going to see probably in the next, I'm really going to say in the next 5 to 10 years, if it doesn't correct itself and we don't get a handle on our healthcare system, you're going to see a lot more providers dropping insurance plans, more so than we have now. And this is going to punish rural America. It's going to punish rural America. And you're going to see more direct pay models where you're going to go to your doctor and it's going to be like it was in the 50s and 60s where you just pay the doctor cash. There's no such thing as insurance. You know, we'll give you the paperwork. You can file with your insurance company and we'll send you the forms and the claim. You can file your own claim forms. But this is what's happening when you keep squeezing physicians to the point where they cannot forcibly make a living, or you have capital hedge fund groups buying medical practices where it's all about the profit. And I'm telling everybody in Substack world, this is why my last article I wrote, which was that $200 billion ask by the DOD, it's going to be so, like, you already saw it. What was it? Yesterday, they're already talking about diverting healthcare monies to pay for the war. To pay for this war that's illegal, that is ill-advised, that is going to result in nothing but American soldiers coming home in flag-draped coffins, wasting resources, you know. And for those of you who didn't see the article, basically in a nutshell, I wrote about a $200 billion ask that the DOD, that Hegseth is asking us so that we can be tippy-top, right? And what this does, this funds the NIH for 4 years. The amount of money they're asking for can fund the National Institutes of Health for 4 years. What they're asking for is an 1,100% surplus on the level that would fund all of our healthcare national agencies for the next 2 years. Like, just keeping the funding levels where they're at right now. We're talking CMS, HHS, Medicaid, Medicare, VA, the current funding levels for the next 2 years. This entire $200 billion, Marlon, also, okay, now you've been around long enough to know when the VA system, when they built the hospitals after World War II.
Oh, yeah.
Right?
I mean, I wasn't there at the time, but yeah, I know about it.
They were built in the 60s and 70s, and those buildings, like everything else, have a lifespan. The $200 billion can literally rebuild the entire VA infrastructure from an HVAC, electrical, mechanical perspective, all of the capital improvements across the entire hospital system with the VA. We can literally rebuild the entire VA hospital system. Or we can take that money and apply it to the Veterans Benefit Administration, which has a massive backlog, and actually take care of the veterans, because, you know, this administration has not taken care of the veterans at all.
Unreal.
So this is where this money is not being spent. Oh, and by the way, we're not talking about the $3.6 billion slash from the CDC, which has now opened up our front door to, you know, biological diseases and the fact that, you're in Virginia, so what's happening with the measles outbreaks.
Fortunately, I'm in North Carolina.
I'm sorry, North
but
Carolina.
yeah, I mean, we're having the same thing here.
Right. When you stop vaccinating and you don't do surveillance, and this is the shit that happens, and you're going to literally opening up our front door to another pandemic, because we know how well the last one went and how everybody was really thrilled with the last one, So, and keep in mind, I want to remind everybody that this is exactly what Trump did in 2016. He came in and wiped out the pandemic task force, literally defunded the entire pandemic task force from the CDC. So we had no response to COVID when it hit the shores. We had no ability to go to China and shut it down over there like Obama did with Zika and Ebola. Okay. So we are talking about an administration that, and you guys have heard me say this over and over and over again. They want us broke, they want us sick, and they want us uneducated.
Well, they're well on their way in the uneducated department for sure.
Yeah. Well, they want us sick and poor because,
then you don't have time to think about, what they're doing. You're so worried about making it through the next day. Right.
Mm-hmm. And you already
you actually said something, when I was, dealing with the whole hospital thing, I think at some point I don't even think of where I lived in this way, but the nearest, like ER, I'm not talking about the, what do you call it? Urgent care, little places, but the nearest serious ER is probably 25 miles away.
Yeah.
And I mean, there have been, in the case of this leg wound, and just to kind of paint the picture. So I guess it had to be New Year's Eve, I think, or New Year's Day or something. And, I knew that, okay, this has really kind of gotten bad. It's not, something's wrong. I got to go to the ER. So we got there at about midnight. Okay. Which, I don't know, you would think that might have been the slow time. Nope. I got treated or seen at 8 o'clock the next morning. I literally had to, we got there, went through, that triage where they check your insurance and all that stuff. And they said, okay, doctor will be with you, and dude, yeah, all night. And, at a certain point, you're so invested, you're not going to leave and go somewhere else. And really the next closest place was, back in the other direction. So 25 miles and then another 20 to get to that place. So, yeah. And I mean, the doctors are working hard as they can and the people are nice, but it's just that they're so, they don't have the resources.
Right? When it's not the delivery system that's the problem. You can pretty much go to any clinic and get care.
Yeah.
Go to any hospital and get care. Our problem has always been the level of administrative annoyance that is built into our healthcare system, that we are literally spending now 57 cents per dollar spent in healthcare spent on administration cost.
Wow.
Do you know how much the Europeans spend?
No idea.
Like a tenth of that. Because they are willing to spend money to treat the boring diabetes, to treat the boring hypertension, to treat the boring GI issues, because anything that prevents people from going to the hospital is what saves money. Okay. The reason why our healthcare system is set up the way it is because it's all reactive medicine driven. You break your leg, you get surgery. You cut your leg, you get surgery. There's always an expense part to injury. You have to have the new antibiotic that's, $1,800 and it's $300 a dose, but you only need 6 of them. I mean, this is the problem in our system, is that we don't have the mechanisms to treat. And this is, I know what everybody's going to say in the chat when I talk about this, because it's like, well, this is so simple. Why can't we fix the system? We cannot fix the system. We have to legislate our way out of it because of the way that the system was set up legislatively. You have the Medicare Act, you have the Administrative Services Act, you have about 5 or 6 other laws that Congress has passed federally that do not allow for preventative care. There's no mechanism to pay for preventative care. Look at what it took just to get your annual medical service covered by your primary care physician. It took the ACA to get that covered. And look at how much that was a pain in the ass. Right? So imagine trying to reform the system with people who don't want the system reformed. We're talking about insurance companies, the hospitals, and the pharmaceutical lobby. It's not even the physicians. Most physicians are like me. They want to just get paid for the work that they do. Stop cutting me. Cutting me is not going to save overall money. What's going to save money is stop going to the fucking hospital for care. Right? The hospital should be reserved for life and death situations or for surgical procedures that are too small or too complex for surgery centers. That cannot be done as a walk-in outpatient kind of style. Like your leg could have been done in an outpatient surgery center.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what happened. And it's, what we learned from the whole experience, and it's almost over. So, I'm on the downhill side of this,
Which is a good thing.
Yeah. But from the beginning, so I actually injured my leg on the 3rd or 4th of December, if you can believe it.
Yeah, you walked on it for a couple of weeks.
I walked around on it for a week, trying to be tough.
Nothing to see here. Okay.
Yeah, it'll
haven't met Officer Bar Brady from South Park. He's right there.
Okay. So pardon me. So yeah, by the time I got to the doctor, well, I went to the emergency room, got it x-rayed. They said, okay, you fractured your fibula. It turned out that really was almost a non-factor. Okay. Because my the leg or the broken leg healed up a month ago. Mm-hmm. No, I'm still walking around.
It's the fracture blister.
Yeah, and that's what the guy called it, a trauma blister or something like that.
Same thing.
I guess I hit my leg and it's right at the point where the impact was. What happened was I slipped on some stairs, leg, flew out and hit the banister, thing. And so I got this big knot that turns into a blister that turns into this, this leg wound. I'd never heard anything like this, but apparently it's not uncommon. But the thing that we learned is you as a patient, dude, you have to advocate for yourself, like almost to the point, to the point of rudeness, because two things I never have had doctors say to me. So, the first thing I did, you go, ER, and then the next step was to the, the orthopedic section in the hospital, or the, the doctors that I use. The guy who thought it was a gunshot, right? Well, I had gotten, from this doctor to that doctor, within just my network. And the thing I never heard a doctor say, he just looks at me and he says what you just said. He said, "Man, I'm so sorry, but this shit is broken." And I'm looking at him like, well, dude, that's, but yeah, am I going to lose my leg though? and fortunately it wasn't that bad, but I saw a half dozen when they put me in the hospital. It was just every day. There were 2 or 3 different doctors, vascular guys, they're trying to figure out, I guess, is he going to need surgery or how's this going to heal? And it was so funny to me. The person who said wound vac was a resident. He says, oh, he looks at it, he says, oh, you're going to need a wound vac. And he describes what it is. And I told one of the surgeons, they're like, oh, he's a resident. I'm the guy that's going to fix your leg. And I'm like, okay. Didn't mean to step on any toes, but guess what? Now I've been on a wound vac for 2 months, and it's inconvenient, but it freaking works. and every week I go in and they measure it. And so from where I was 2 months ago, this,
It
this
does,
little
yeah.
injury is like 85%
Now,
smaller than it was.
right now, at some point, and this is the thing where I want to kind of clarify. So we don't use the wound vac to fully granulate the wound, to fully close the wound. It's not what it's
Right.
designed. We use the wound vac to assist with granulation tissue formation.
Yep.
So part of that is doing serial debridement or surgical debridements of the wound, which is basically taking a surgical blade and basically skiving into the wound and removing all of the biofilm and all the bacteria and everything that forms on the surface of the wound, because you have to clean that out, along with irrigating and cleaning out the wound, but also making sure that you're getting healthy bleeding tissue, because that's what you want. We want the wounds to bleed. We want them to be healthy. We want to recruit growth factors and the body's inflammatory mechanism to help heal it. So that's what the wound vac's for. It's to help to flip from like this chronicity to more of an acute ladder style healing. Now, there comes a point in the ladder of wound healing where we start at the bottom, which is basically like secondary intention, which is what you're getting right now, all the way up to a reconstructive flap, where we take basically where you could have a part of the muscle, the soft tissue, and actually rotate that over the wound.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, like a rotational flap or a pedicle flap or whatever. And that's the plastics closure. That could have been done, Marlon. It's a surgical preference as to whether or not, if you're a good candidate, are the surgeons even trained? If you have a vascular surgeon, odds are that they haven't done plastics in 30 years, especially if you're at a rural hospital. Like if you're in that type of an environment, the residents are only as good as the attendings training them. So if you're in an area where there's not a lot of younger physicians, where there's more retired guys or guys that are just in the back half of their career, and you don't see a lot of rotational younger physicians moving into the area, you tend to lose some of the newer stuff that's coming out there, because it's all of our research and all the new stuff really comes from the major medical centers. Now, being in North Carolina, thank God you've got UNC Charlotte and Duke, and you've got Wake Forest, right? You've got 3 phenomenal, absolutely stellar, medical facilities in North Carolina, and you're fortunate. But for people who live in, say, Durango, Colorado, which is like the southwest corner of Colorado, and the closest facility is Santa Fe, which is 30 miles away, and you're literally in like Nowheresville, that most experienced person might be a nurse practitioner.
Oh my gosh. Well, yeah, I mean, it's one thing about North Carolina. They have got, as you said, just, world-class medical facilities in the triangle, up around Raleigh and Wake Forest, and the education system, like higher ed, as far as colleges go, same thing. But I guess, in my case, just to clarify, I'm in a vacation community, but it is classified as rural, right?
Because you're outside 30 miles from.
I mean, I am halfway between Wilmington, North Carolina, and Jacksonville, which is another, not as big as Wilmington, I don't guess, but another metropolitan area. The wound clinic that I go to is actually in Wilmington. So I have to drive 30 miles to go to those guys, which is fine. I mean, I go to Wilmington all the time, but so I go to see those guys. And it's interesting. You talk about hospitals. That hospital, I'd say 5 years ago, was New Hanover County Regional Medical Center. Well, now it's Novant Health, because I assume it's private equity that bought this hospital. And, it was, I think it was like a mutual, where in terms of the ownership, it wasn't private. Right. And this was several years ago. I had to go in something similar, had gotten an infection or something, and they had to, they put you in there for 2 or 3 days so they can use the really, the stronger stuff that can only be done intravenously. Right. So I know this would surprise people, but, I talked to every nurse, and pretty soon everybody on the floor knew who Mr. Weems was, right? And so they're telling me all their business, and it almost brought me to tears how, um, they're just not getting paid. I mean, these, and it's mostly women that are nurses, and and that you have to deal with, and just they're not making a lot of money for the skill level that they have to have, right? It was kind of startling to me. And they were at that time, and this was on the back end of COVID, because they still had a COVID floor, I remember. And they were just talking about, I mean, they were really worried about what was going to happen when this private company took over the hospital. And
listen, you worked on Wall Street. You know what happens when
oh, I know exactly what happens.
The wages go down.
Wages go down. Number of employees is going to go down. They call it synergies. Two people doing the same job, we only need one of those people.
Or they increase the nurse to patient ratio. So if they say at the time the nurses were only seeing, on the floor nurses, let's say on the surgical unit, they were seeing, say, they would have 6 patients per nurse. They'd push it to 8.
I can believe it. I can. So let me ask you something. This is kind of, I don't know if you've ever watched this show, The Pit.
Love The Pit. Love The Pit.
Shannon actually got me watching it. And I don't know. I was, I saw it was Noah, what's his name? Noah Wiley or
Noah Wiley.
Right. And I was like, oh, this is just a rerun of ER. I don't want to see this guy.
No, it's not.
It's not at all, man.
Not even close.
At all. And it's funny, the first season, there was a guy that came in, and he'd had a wreck on his bicycle or something, and he had a trauma wound, like one of these blister things. And and here I am, I'm watching this guy, and my legs propped up because I got one. And sure enough, one of the residents at the time that came in, and the thing blew up on him. And I said, I know exactly what that's like. So yeah, so it's pretty realistic, you think?
The pit's actually very realistic to a very big city emergency room. I mean, I worked as a firefighter in Detroit, so I used to go to Detroit receiving all the time, and that place was crazy. Level 1 trauma center. So similar to the hospital that they use in the pit as a level 1 trauma center. And that's typically the setup is there's a senior attending. There's about, there's 2 other attendings, and then 2 fellows, like junior attendings, nurse, charge nurse.
Okay.
Nurses. So everything in
that woman, the woman that plays the charge, that's the blonde woman, right? Yes. She actually, I don't think she's from North Carolina.
No.
But she went to school here in North Carolina at the I think it's the University of like Music and Art or something like that. Hallie, our daughter, almost, she was looking at going there, but she did something different. But yeah, it's a fascinating show, folks. If you haven't watched it, it's on HBO, and I give it my seal of approval. I'm sorry, what's that?
Catherine Lanassa is her name.
Right, I love her. Her character is really great.
Yeah, well, it's really interesting too. Is she actually? She's very tough, but she's and she won and she got an Emmy last year. She won the Emmy for supporting actress. Absolutely.
I can see.
She's actually originally from New Orleans. So that's, but what's really interesting is, even more importantly, when you look at her history, and that's how I knew her. She was married to Dennis Hopper. She was also married to French Stewart, believe it or not.
Wait, I don't know who is French Stewart. I'm not sure.
He was goofy. Remember the Third Rock from the Sun with John Lithgow? Okay, he was the goofy other guy.
See, I don't think I watched that show.
Yeah.
Anyway, but Dennis Hopper, you had me right. That is not somebody I would have put with her, but it kind of tells you something, doesn't it?
I'll tell you. So, but that's the thing, everybody. Like when we're talking about like Marlon, and thanks for sharing all your personal health history.
Oh man, it's out there.
I know, but I try to protect a lot of my friends and my patients on here. I don't
Sure.
really divulge. I mean, I'm not allowed to, first of all. Like, but
Right.
you can do it.
Oh, yeah, I don't know if you've heard, Eric, but we don't have to obey the law anymore.
No, we don't. I was
We
speeding on
we
the
don't have to. We
here
don't
because
have
I
to
was
obey
running
the
late.
law. What are you talking about, man?
I fracture a law or two at least once a day. It's like,
No, it's okay. I mean,
but I have to be careful because my
I'm
base
glad
airport
that we
now.
went down this road because, um, first of all, my situation has turned out to be, I'm going to be okay. And in fact, Monday when I was there, they're talking about this, the various, you know, s- I call it skin replacement. That's but the doctor said the wound has gotten so small. If it keeps going like this next week, it might be too small for anybody, to approve any of this stuff.
There are
It'll
other
'cause-
dressings called they're just regular collagen dressings that you can
yeah.
change every other day,
Hmm.
and wrap it up yourself and take a shower, get it wet, and then dry your leg and put the collagen on and wrap it up. And that those are just as effective to close a wound. We don't
I
have to
mean,
spend.
that's where I am. I'm at the point where, it's gotten pretty small, but that it's still like open skin or
Mhm.
no skin, right? And so I know there's got to be some sort of a nexus from that to getting it totally closed. And you can't walk around with an open wound on your leg. So, well, it's not advisable. You could
Well,
do it, but
not open to the air, but certainly if it's under dressing wrapped up, you can go about your
right.
day.
Oh
Nobody.
yeah. Yeah. So, man, this is really turned into a totally different show than I thought it was going to be.
Well,
I thought that was,
that's the great thing about organic Substack. You just
yeah,
never know where it's gonna go.
yeah,
Listen, I
absolutely.
mean,
And
I have to. I'll be in Charlotte next week.
oh,
Um,
really?
I'll be in Charlotte next week. I have a
That
conference.
is, I think that's 4 or 5 hours away
Yeah,
from me.
you're way up at
Still.
the north tip, so like you're.
Yeah, I'm on the eastern coast.
Yeah.
So, I'm maybe, I don't know, 2 hours as the crow flies from Raleigh. But yeah, you know what? I've never been to Charlotte.
And
And
by the
it's
way,
so,
congratulations to High Point for having a great season in basketball this year and doing small colleges proud because they had a
yeah.
great.
Yeah, you know what? They played my Arkansas Razorbacks. So I'm from
Whipped their
Arkansas, but
ass.
yeah, yeah, well, they should have. I mean, but High Point for a minute there. I mean, they because they were hitting a whole lot of threes,
Hmm.
if I recall. But yeah, Arkansas, for one thing, Calipari. I mean, when we got that guy, I was like, okay, we're finally getting serious about some basketball. Now, granted, we'd had, we seem to be able to get to the Sweet 16 pretty easily. It's that next jump that's kind of tough.
It's. I'm looking at the chat and people are pretty active. I mean, people are. Joe's talking about how her ER wait time was 23 hours, nothing to eat.
I can believe it. Listen, I'm telling you, I got to the
It's
hospital
terrible.
right at midnight, and we walked out of that place just kind of, well, you know how it is when you stay up all night. I mean, it wasn't like there was a place to sleep, and it wasn't that they were just being lazy or whatever. They didn't have a bed because
Yeah,
everybody from the surrounding area, the rural community, that's their hospital, the ER,
right. So
right?
let me tell you what happened last week. So one of my patients she's 104, God bless her.
Wow.
Right. So I'm treating her for a venous leg ulcer. Okay. So this daughter calls me and lets me know that she's being admitted to the hospital that I'm on staff at. So I go to the hospital and she hadn't been seen yet by the ER attending. And I walk in and they had already put the consult in for me because she said, just whatever you do, call Dr. Lullove as soon as you get to the emergency. And they called me right away. So I got there before everybody else. And she's there and she's in full-blown exacerbated congestive heart failure. Like you could hear her lung filling up with
Oh
fluid.
man.
Her lungs, her heart was not functioning properly. Her blood pressure was like in the high 190s. She was in cardiac stress. You could see that she was literally so for those of you that don't know what congestive heart failure is, so the heart has two pumps, the right side and the left side. The right side is what the pump returns blood from the body, and that's what pumps it to the lungs. Gets oxygenated, goes back into the left atrium, which then goes into the left ventricle, and that's what pumps to your entire body circuit. Okay. So, and then it goes back through the vena cava and back into the right atrium. So your heart is really, it's a 4-chamber pump, but it's a 2-pump system. So when you're having heart failure, you either have 2 forms of it. You either have left-sided congestive heart failure or right-sided congestive heart failure. When you have right-sided failure, that's when you see the swelling in the lower extremities, the edema backing up in the system. And the edema would be like the swelling from fluid, because what they try to do is when you go on a lot of cardiac medications and they try to prevent all the fluid and the pressure from entering the right side of the heart, you'll see all that fluid back up somewhere. Listen, you have 6 liters of fluid in your system. So it's got to go somewhere. You can't just, it's got to go. So when you start slowing down the rate of contraction of the heart through different medications, you're going to back up the right side of the heart. When the left side of the heart has failure, the blood, it's not getting pumped out of the left atrium to the systemic circuit. So it starts backing up into your lungs through the pulmonary vein. And so when you have left-sided congestive heart failure, it literally feels like you're drowning, because you've got fluid building up in your lung fields. So I get to the hospital, and it's terrible. It's like I can't think of a more distressing feeling than knowing you're drowning and you're not in water, right? Like it's just not a natural feeling for us. We're used to breathing air, not fluid. The last time we breathed fluid was in the amniotic sac when we were, a fetus and up till 9 months. I mean, so I'm like, I grab one of the nurses that are seeing her. I'm like, why isn't she being diuresed? Like, we got to get this fluid off of her lung, like, now. So here I am, surgical podiatrist, way outside my scope of practice. I'm like managing a patient in acute congestive heart failure. And then finally, about an hour later, one of my colleagues came in, who's the pulmonologist, who came in and agreed with like the dosing around. Like, they were going to hold her Lasix till the morning. Like, she would not have made it till the morning.
Wow.
Excuse me. So
bless you.
And then finally got her on what's called the BiPAP machine, which is the big face mask that pushes it forces oxygen into your lungs, and eventually she got discharged on Sunday. She's back home now, but thank God.
Wow. And she's 104.
Right. 104. And it took 18 hours for her to get into the ICU.
Wow.
And this is,
I'm just thinking about just the stress on the body.
This is a level 2 cardiac trauma center.
Wow.
So this is like
she's lucky she made it.
Yeah.
Period.
Yeah. I mean, she's weak now. I just talked to her this morning because I wanted to see how she was doing, and she's weak. But she feels like her, and of course, at that treating geriatrics, when they go into the hospital, the first thing they all say,
what's that?
The food sucks. The food's terrible. The food's awful. Like the food's like they worry about. Forget the fact that they're having like whatever they're having health wise, but they always say the same thing. The food is the worst.
Well, yeah, they're not lying, man.
It's pretty bad.
You have to find something on that menu that that jumps out, and you just kind of go with it.
Not even that. It's also based on what you're there for. So if you're going in for like a cardiac issue, you're going to get put on a low salt cardiac diet, which equals no taste.
Yeah, I know.
Right.
So when I was talking about being in, several years ago, my story was not that bad, but very similar, because I didn't know that I had AFib, and I have asthma. And so my breathing kept getting progressively worse. I thought it was asthma related. So I'm doing my inhalers, and it's not really, helping. And at a certain point, I felt like I was drowning. Yeah. I just couldn't breathe. And if, anytime I would lay back, it was that fluid, like you said, and you feel like you're just suffocating. And so, fortunately, man, I tell you, when you have decent insurance, which I've always had, it's not the best. Well, funny, the best insurance that I ever had was when I first went to work in New York. And it was with a little minority-owned firm. And I settled in, and I said, I'm looking at my stuff. So how do I pay for my insurance? And they said, oh no, it's covered. We got you.
Yeah, that was back in the day when
Yeah,
health
they
insurance.
paid my insurance
Old
100%.
traditional insurance plan model that paid everything at 100%. Maybe you had a $500 deductible, maybe.
Man, I don't even remember. I remember Shannon calling me up one day and saying, I've just gotten all this insurance stuff in the mail. And this was this was more than 25 years ago. And she said, this is the best insurance I've ever seen. I mean, they paid for everything, just about everything. Now, the worst insurance that I've ever had, interestingly, was when I worked for, another boutique firm, but we were part owned by Cantor Fitzgerald, which Howard Ludnick was the CEO at the time. So we were sort of under their umbrella. They were a 49% owner, but really functionally, we operated like a division of Cantor Fitzgerald. We were in their building, just everything. I mean, like their insurance, all of their services, we sort of piggybacked on. The worst insurance that I ever had, man.
Oh.
But yeah. Hey, man, look, I know you've kind of got a day job.
Oh, I'm good right now. We can keep going.
Okay, I just want to be sure.
I blocked out time for you this morning. We're good.
All right, man.
We can keep rolling.
So yeah,
So you worked? Did you work in? Were you in a satellite office, or were you working in Manhattan at the time?
Oh no, I was in Midtown Manhattan at the.
You're Midtown.
I actually had.
The offices were down at World Trade Center.
Well, I actually was working in New York on 9/11. I had, I guess, been there almost a year, and the first place that I worked, the one with the really good insurance, and those guys. Again, this was not Goldman or one of the big firms. They paid. I was living in Arkansas, and I was really surprised that they hired me. But they moved me, paid for everything. They put me up in a hotel while Shannon was, organizing everything. I mean, so yeah, it was about as good as it gets, right? But I was on Fifth Avenue, like 49th, well, right across from Saks Fifth Avenue was on one side of the street, and then Rockefeller Center was like catty corner, across the street.
A terrible place to work.
Well,
terrible.
Yeah, it's rough, man. I mean, at that time I was living in what they call Morningside Heights, which is almost Harlem, but it's right there by Columbia.
Yep.
And so it was fun times. It was before our kids were born, and so yeah. I'm glad
we segued into your Wall Street, because I had a question for you.
Sure.
So one of our mutual subscribers, Ashley Lauren, uncovered something in the files yesterday regarding the Galloway group with the Zorro Ranch.
Okay.
So apparently at the Zorro Ranch there were like 50 plus transmission lines for communications that they were running through the property. Wow. And I can't remember everything that she wrote about, but she had uncovered in one of the Epstein file documents the group of the Galloway partners that had heavily invested in the transmission energy lines that they were selling off through the Zorro Ranch. Like they were funneling energy, and they got like an FCC license.
You mean like electricity?
Electricity, and they were doing some other. I mean, like there were other things that were being run through
this ranch.
Through the ranch, where this was the Epstein Ranch back in New Mexico.
Okay.
Where they were funneling not just women, but it was just crazy story. But I wanted to ask you about that what's being uncovered now is all the financial stuff. Now, not just
hang on a second. So the Galloway group, I just kind of Googled it real quick, and I'm not 100% sure, but and in fact, I'm not even going to say that. This sounds like a hedge fund or a venture capital firm. Now, yep. I'll look into it and check it out. But I can tell you, and I don't know how long ago, they were doing this, but there was a point. Well, actually right when I got to New York. And I think it's one of the things that um, totally sort of by luck that made it easy for me to transition. um, Up until that point, everything was, it was analog. Like you do a trade, you write a ticket and give it to a guy, and he do, all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Right when I got to New York was when the street was going from that to digital. So that's when, back in the day, stocks used to trade in like eighths and quarters, and there was a whole lot of room for, tomfoolery. Okay, let's just say. And so,
and just hope all that tomfoolery didn't result in a margin call at the end of the day.
yeah, well, yeah. So yeah. The reason I even bring that up is that it required a lot of infrastructure. So you had, hedge funds, rich folks that were getting in the business of laying all this communication, the phone lines,
Right.
the high speed phone lines and stuff all over the country. So I'm wondering if it's what you've described
Sure
is connected to that in some way, because we went this is the age that introduced all the algorithmic trading and stuff, and because I was there at sort of when that started, um you know I didn't have to relearn the old sort of horse and buggy way of doing trades. I sort of walked into Wall Street right at the point when they were making that transition. But
She
that's
had
an interesting story.
I'm pulling up her article because I wanted to. She's actually somebody that would be really interesting to talk to as
Now,
well.
I'm sorry. Tell me again who it was.
Her name is Ashley A. Lauren. So I think Ashley's her first name, but I did a live with her the other day. Actually,
I don't think I know.
So she
her.
does. No, she's been kind of quiet on Substack a lot. She's been part of the teams that have been investigating a lot of the Epstein files on the back end.
Mm-hmm.
And communicating with Ellie and Kate Justice and those. But she had so it was the Zorro Ranch audit is what she's been working on.
Mm-hmm.
And she's got like 3 parts that she's been publishing, and she just did the third one that so her third one, she had found the tech, which was the pipeline with all the energy transmission lines, and then the commercial tax fraud hiding it with the internal bank mails proving that Leon Black and Howard Lutnick utilized the shadow banking.
Okay.
This out. So,
yeah, there was a whole lot when you talk about Leon Black. It's Apollo is and basically, I mean, that guy had he was the chairman of Apollo, which is one of the I'm going to say they're a venture capital firm, maybe private equity, one or the other, I forget which. But that guy several years ago, I think, had to step down. So what he was doing was some really bad shit if he had to step down like 2 or 3 years ago before a lot of this stuff came out. And I saw an article just the other day that was talking about how Epstein had sort of courted all the guys in, at Apollo, I think it's Apollo Capital Management. It's the strangest story, man. I was talking to Ellie Leonard last week, and I was telling her that I was sitting on a trading desk one day, and it's maybe kind of slow or whatever, and you're just sort of sitting there, and you know what it's like. It's like sitting in the dugout at a baseball game. Those guys, they're just sitting there waiting on their turn, kind of. And so, a trading desk, it's literally, this long desk. And there's, at least in my case, there were like, 4 or 5 guys, and everybody's sitting there looking at a half a dozen screens. And then this one cat goes, man, there's this guy, and he's got a book. He's got shit on everybody, and he's really rich. And he's describing Epstein. But we did not know that there was such a person back then. And I don't even know. I know this guy. I talked to him yesterday, and we're always talking about all the shit that used to come across our purview. Now I guess that would have been, around the time of the financial crisis. So what, 06, 07, something like that.
That's crazy.
And he was talking about it then. And we were laughing. And I was telling Ellie this, there are, I'm writing, I'm writing a story about it, and shit comes up, and then I go, "Ooh, boy, I think I probably need to talk about oil more than than this thing." And so, but anyway, they got these private restaurants in New York where you got to, like, Rayo's. It's amazing to me how people don't know Rayo's, especially because
I have a Rayo's story.
Oh, do you? I would like to hear your Rayo's story, sir.
I have a Rayo's story.
Okay.
Are we sideswiping this to go to the Rayo's? Is that what we're doing now? Okay. So for those of you that don't know what Rayo's is, so Rayo's is an Italian family-owned restaurant in the middle of Harlem.
Yeah.
Like in the middle of Harlem.
It's what used to be called Italian Harlem.
Italian Harlem, right. Yeah. So this is a place that the people that are local, when they walk on the side of the street with the restaurant, they're not walking on that side of the street where the restaurant is. They actually cross the street to walk on the other side. Okay. Rayo's is one of those places that it's impossible to get a table unless you know somebody.
Oh yeah. Like I have read, just in writing this story, that it is the most difficult restaurant in America.
It is.
And possibly in the world. Maybe there are a couple of other ones that,
right. So years ago, my father, my parents manufactured window treatments for Hunter Douglas. So we had customers in New York City, and one of the guys that he sold window treatments to that we used to work for the New York City school system, and he ran a crew, midnights, by the way, repairing the emergency exit doors on the New York City school buses. You want to talk about a racket? How many emergency doors needed replacement on the school bus, right?
Dude, I got a 1995 school bus, and ain't nothing wrong with the emergency
exactly, door. Right? These guys had side jobs. These guys were like clock in at like 9 p.m. and they were supposed to be working all night, and these guys were doing all kinds of other stuff. Anyway, so I was in medical school in Cleveland at the time, and I had to fly to New York for something. And my father calls me up. He's like, "Listen, while you're going to New York, I need you to meet with my customer and just take care of it." I said, okay. So I call him up. I'm like, "Hey, I'm in town." He's like, "All right, listen, why don't you meet me at Rayo's? I have a table there every Friday at 7:30.
Wow.
In the window, in the front of the restaurant, by the way.
Stop. Okay?
So 7:30 walks in. I meet him at the bar. We have a drink. We go sit down. We're having dinner. Toward the end of dinner, he then slides me a bag.
Okay.
Full of cash.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So I'm like, "Well, how am I going to get this back to the?" He's like, "Don't worry about it. We have a car waiting for you. Don't worry about it. And if you step outside while you're waiting for the car, nothing's going to happen to you while you're here."
Not coming out of Rayo's.
No. Right. Not coming out of Rayo's. Right. So the funny part is, so I go to the airport the next day, and I've got this. It was like $50,000 in cash.
Shit.
Okay, this is back in the day when the TSA was not, there was no such thing as TSA.
Right. Yeah.
This was back in the day when it was like, rent a cop airport security. Like the people in the red jackets would screen you for airport security.
That's back in the day when you could actually like rent a locker in the airport.
We could rent a locker in the airport, right? And so I go through security, and at that time it's just the metal detectors and the x-ray machines. So it wasn't as sophisticated as it is today. They don't have any imaging. They couldn't see inside the bag. It just was a metal detector for your bags. So, and I'm sitting at the airport. I'm sitting at one of the restaurants, and then these people were talking about the Sopranos episodes, about how they're like, "I can't believe this doesn't really happen. People aren't just sliding cash in places, and they're just doing it like out in the open." And I'm sitting here thinking to myself, like, you have no idea how life is right sitting next to you right now. like life is, they say, like, what, art is reality, or art mimics life.
Imitates art.
Life imitates
art imitates life, I guess.
I'm sitting at this table with my backpack strap wrapped around my leg twice on the floor underneath the table, because I got $50K sitting in that I'm transporting illegally across state lines.
Wow.
Flying back to Michigan. And it was just, and that's how he paid my father. He paid him in cash. So it was just, that's how business got done in New York. It's very similar. Like, and I, listen, a lot of people will say, "Oh, Lev's a bad guy. He was committed to, Lev went to prison." Yeah, Lev did go to prison, right? He was convicted of campaign finance laws, right? That was his shtick.
Mm-hmm.
But that's how business got done in New York City when you grew up on the street. That's the way it got done in Brooklyn. Like when you came here with nothing, that's what you did.
Listen, man, I'll tell you.
There's two types of learning, Marlon, right? There's academic learning and then there's street learning.
Yep.
You got to learn both.
Well, I'll tell you.
You want to survive, you got to learn both.
The bond business was not unlike that in Little Rock. I mean, there were stories of the guys I worked for where I say, I learned my craft, so to speak. And it just occurred to me, I'm supposed to do another live at noon, so I probably got to get ready for it. But anyway, here I am, no college degree, but I was a good salesperson. So I had worked some of those kind of jobs, and somebody hooked me up and got me into this business, and I, it clicked. But I worked for a firm that when they hired me, I was the first Black person they'd hired to do my job. There were story after story after story of how they closed a bond deal literally by, say a new school's got to get built, right? And it's supposed to be competitive. And, the guys from New York show up and make their pitch. Our guy shows up and hands the keys to, whoever the person is that, that's in charge, and says, there's a car out there for you, and just look in the trunk and you're good. And it would be full of money. And you keep the car.
Right. You don't want the car, right?
Yeah, it's just the way it was done. Right.
It was a 75 Chevy Impala with right?
It's free. So yeah, I mean, we even had our own lobbyist we had a lobbyist in DC that operated out of DC. And then we had a local guy that I can only describe him, if you can imagine Foghorn Leghorn, the big chicken, he just a really loud, boisterous, Southern good old boy, but he knew everybody on Capitol Hill. And, again, deals were made. I'm sure money exchanged hands. I think at some point he ended up going to jail for something. I mean, but it was just the way it was done.
Yeah. I mean, and now what we're seeing, it's not, now they're just doing it out in the open.
Oh,
now it's just here. Invest in my crypto business. Here you go.
This is orders of magnitude.
Yeah.
Beyond. And folks,
you and I were talking about is pocket money compared to what these guys.
Yeah. Yeah,
this millions to billions are being.
I mean, we're talking about a global scale. I'm not going to put the video up because we probably should close, but it came out in the Financial Times yesterday that Pete Hegson. So we're talking about the head of the Department of Defense.
Mm-hmm.
His broker was reaching out to, I think it was BlackRock.
Yeah.
To do a multi-million-dollar transaction in defense stocks. Okay.
I know there's a law. I think it's called the Hatch Act, actually.
Well, listen, it was so out of the orbit of shit that a brokerage firm would want to do just for the exposure. I mean, it's the head of the Department of Defense, and it's the guy that's his broker, Colin BlackRock.
Wow.
And this was like a month ago.
And they wonder why people are so upset, and why people are angry, and why people are just like Nick says, sick of this shit. It really is just sick of this shit.
That's probably the most apropos name, right? of any,
and they wonder why. You wonder why every Republican just about is they're fleeing because they know they're going to get slacked in the
no question.
And that's why he tries to pass. He's trying to sign all these orders saying, "Oh, DHS can do this with the election," but nowhere in the Constitution does it ever say the president has any jurisdiction over a single election in this country.
Presidents have nothing to do with it.
Zero.
And that's the thing. Congress. A lot of what they're talking about is really not good for their own people.
No.
I mean, getting rid of mail-in balloting.
It's rural America.
Yeah, it's that lets you know how scared they are. But
he's going to he said that he was going to be attending the hearing today on birthright citizenship. He'll actually be
Who
in
is
at the
Trump?
Supreme Court. Yeah.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
What I don't even
No,
remember.
that is, you know what that's like.
President.
That's like, dude, that's like
Go to
the
a
scene
soda
in The Godfather where the guy's testifying and his
Yeah.
brother is sitting in the back of
Right.
the room. Yeah,
Well, that
You know,
tells you
that
how
is-
that tells you how weak he is. That he thinks he's
Yeah.
got to go there to make a difference. And
that's going to piss them off if anything.
you think?
I mean, it's bad enough he's already, you know, I think the part that he didn't calculate when he made all these appointments is these guys don't run, they don't have to run for anything else.
No. No. I have a
So,
lifetime
yeah,
appointment, dumbass. You're not going to
it's so
intimidate me.
stupid. So Eric, man, this
Yeah.
has been great. I really,
Love you, bro.
I'm so glad we did this, and we got to do it again.
Absolutely.
You know, and I think it's great to see, you know, Blue Amp, Journeyman Media Network. We're all friends. We're all rowing the boat the same direction. And, you know, we got to do more of this. I think, you know, when I think of, say, the free press and, you know, what's happened with them, it's sort of at least a case study in what independent media can be. I don't agree with 99% of what I see in the free press, and certainly Barry Weiss is a whole different story. But it does tell you that we've really,
Gross.
you know, we're kind of on to something, I think, with this independent media. And if you know, and if one family ends up owning all of traditional media, you know, I think we're in pretty good shape.
I think we're in a good position. I think seeing how angry people are, seeing a 62% disapproval rating for the president,
Yeah,
with a net minus 20 or 18 to 20.
I don't think I've seen numbers this bad before.
No, you can't recover from that. I don't care what you do between now and November. You're not going to recover. You'd have to flip that by double digits. Like double it. Like if you're 20 under, you got to get 40.
Yeah,
you got to flip
just to get to 20
of the country in 6 months, and that's not going to happen. So, I mean, you ever have roasted duck?
I have.
Yeah. You ever have roasted chicken?
I have.
You ever have roasted turkey and it's turducken chicken? That's what this is. This is the roasted turducken chicken dinner. Like,
so in other words,
ways you can cook a bird, but he's found a way to cook it 3 different ways. Like it's just insane. I mean,
so Eric, are you telling me his goose is cooked?
Oh, we didn't even talk about cooking goose. We just talked
about, man. Just to belabor the analogy, right?
I don't see, you know, and I'm not, you know, it's funny. I thought that as I got older, I would find myself being more maybe like right center conservative on financial, which I am, but I find myself becoming more and more progressive because I'm seeing the damage that's being done by the Project 2025, Heritage Foundation, white Christian nationalist America that thinks that they're going to tell me how to live my life. You know, let alone, God forbid, you're a minority, you know, right?
Yeah.
You know, somebody who's put in their time, paid their dues. You're not going to tell me what to do. This is the land of the free and the home of the brave. You ain't telling me how to live my life.
Yeah, you know? That's the part they didn't count on, was people saying, you know, fuck that.
This is we have all, and the one thing that has bound every American, at least that I know of, right, the one thing has always bound us is that we have always been true to the Constitution. That we know at the end of the day, this document that is 250 years old is the one thing that will protect me and protect my family from foreign and domestic enemies. Never would I have thought in my day that we would have that our truest enemy would be occupying the second estate.
Yeah. It's something that I think about all the time.
If we don't have an American Nuremberg when this is all over,
then we're screwed. We're cooked. Honestly,
we're like,
I mean, and we had our chance already, but we sure as shit got to get it done this time.
Twice we had it. But I'm going to blame McConnell on the first one. And I'm going to blame everybody else on the second. And that includes Blue MAGA.
Yeah.
Okay. We cannot, this is not just everybody out there. This is not just about being anti-Trump. This is about being anti-democratic, and people who have been in power for so long, people that don't have a place in the future of this country in leadership positions because they don't know how to lead anymore. They don't know how to message. They're worried about the money, but you cannot survive alone on money at this level with this angry electorate. This is how you get fragged. This is how you get fragged as an incumbent.
Yeah.
When you've lost the, and by the way, Schumer, Jeffries, the old establishment Democrat, they've lost the war. They've lost the messaging war. Yeah. Why aren't they out there every day? Why aren't they on Substack? Why are they not out here every day or a couple times a week on platforms having this message about how illegal this war is, how wrong this is? You don't see them on this stuff. They're not embracing and the
places they go are safe places. They would never come on my show, right?
No.
But yeah, it's I think you're right. I think these guys are going to blow up. I think they are because, like you said, the last I checked, it was over 35 members of the House are retiring. It's probably a bigger number than that. And when you get Marjorie Taylor Greene
on the same,
I saw this morning where she's like talking about fake news and Fox. Now she's warning people about Fox.
Wow.
And I'm like, well, okay. we are definitely in the upside down now.
Did I get transported to another dimension? Like, what planet am I living on? Right? When you see that shit. But like I tell people, there are 435. Every House seat is open. Mm-hmm. Every House seat is up for election. There is not one member of the House that should be safe.
No.
Okay. There are 35 Senate seats.
All you got to do is just get, when you debate these guys, all you got to do is ask them who won the 2020 election.
It's simple.
And right? That's it, right?
And there's 36 governorships. We want to fundamentally change the direction of this country. November 3rd is the day to do it.
Yep. And on that note, sir.
Yep.
I guess we'll wrap it there, but I'm going to hold you to this. Next time we're going to come on. I'm going to get you back on here. We're not going to talk about my leg injury because it'll be healed. And we're gonna talk about how we get these Democrats on the right track.
You got it. So everybody, as far as I'm concerned, this is the guy you got to subscribe to. My paywall is free. I don't charge anybody. He is the man. Marlon Weems, the Journeyman. Find him here on Substack. Support Marlon to the end of time. He's a good man. He's a good soul. He's good people. And
I try. Thanks so much.
I
really appreciate it.
I love everybody that supports me, and there's a reason why I don't have a paywall. It's because I don't need your money. Okay. Ooh. I'm not asking for your money. Just support and follow what I do because that's more important to me than giving me your money. I don't want your money. But Marlon, his work, the stuff that he does,
it does take a little bit of money. It does take a little bit of money.
A little bit of money. And listen, I am happy for him. I'm happy for every person that I support on this medium because we are getting the word out. We are winning the battle. We are winning the war. Okay. And the only way we get better is by being better.
Absolutely. Well, folks, you came for the healthcare advice and we ended up on the political advice. So
you know why? Everything about what we do is about politics.
Yeah, it is.
It's about politics.
I always kind of chuckle when I talk to folks around here and they, I'm not political. Oh, what are you waiting on? So yeah. Anyway, folks, I actually, Eric, thank you again. And like I said, we're going to do this again soon. I am going to leave on that note, and I will be back on with Reality Check, the new show that I'm doing with Egberto Willis, who I'm sure you know. So yeah, he's a good guy.
My brother, I said hello.
I will do that, and we're going to mix it up, and so I'll see you folks again in about right around lunchtime. So take care, and once again, Eric, thanks for coming on, and again, we'll do it again soon.
Appreciate you.
Take care, folks.
Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.
Ladies and gentlemen, your attention, please.